everybody, today's video is about leash manners and some techniques you can try to teach a dog to walk nicely on a leash. Now, what you see Penny doing here, walking attentively next to me, I don't expect that for the duration of the walk. This is just for a few minutes in particularly crowded or tight areas. Most of the time, all I really want from my dogs is basic leash manners, which is being aware of and responsive to the human attached to the leash. A lot of people focus on getting the dog not to pull, but to me, that's a very small piece of a much bigger picture. I often joke that the easiest way to get a dog to stop pulling is to drop the leash, because the dog can't pull if you're not pulling back, right? So there's a lot of quick fixes for pulling, but when I focus on teaching my dog to be attentive and responsive, that not only takes care of the pulling, it builds a foundation for a more pleasant walk for both of us. So you'll see that a lot of what I do for leash manners is the exact same things that I do for recall and off-leash safety. Reward the check-ins, reward choosing to keep up with you, reward anything that involves the dog paying attention to you while they're out exploring. One quick note, you'll notice that I'm using a homemade paracord line with Penny. I don't recommend paracord because it can burn you or the dog easily, but I do prefer a long line to a retractable leash, especially if you're working on eventually being able to be loose off leash. A line like this, you can drop it and let the dog drag it as you're working towards off-leash reliability. So anytime you use a long line, it should be attached to a body harness, never a collar, and especially not a head halter like a halty. The other thing that's really helpful about a long line is that it's easier to keep it loose. A lot of times when dogs pull, it's because it's simply become a habit. Their leash is never loose, and they've just gotten used to having a tight leash. So let's talk about specific techniques now.
Yes, good girl.
This is a behavior that I find really useful. Notice that when I stop, Penny does too. It's really easy to teach, so I'm going to be very deliberate about scuffing my feet to stop. Penny will notice, and then I mark and reward that. You can practice this in low distraction settings and then build it up to where the dog notices you even slowing down, not just stopping. And as you can see, this is something you can also practice off leash. It's just a really good behavior for the dog to have. So now I can take this skill and use it when the dog is pulling. If she pulls, I stop moving. What do you do when I stop moving? You come back to me. So she knows what to do. If she pulls, I stop, and she knows that means come back. Here, Penny is being particularly determined about pulling because there's a really good smell up ahead. Now, I don't mind her going to go smell things, but I definitely mind that level of pulling. So I'm going to fight fire with fire, and I'm going to use sniffing on my terms before I let her go sniff on her terms. So now that she's sniffing what I have asked her to sniff, her reward is going to be to go sniff what she originally wanted to sniff. And yes, of course, it's poop. But watch when I ask her to move on.
Okay, let's go. Yes.
She does.
Girl.
So that's good.
Good girl.
And now watch what happens when she gets distracted by something up ahead again. There go the wheels. She's thinking, and she made the right choice. Good job. This is one more example of really determined pulling. Penny sees a squirrel, so I stop. And as soon as she responds ever so slightly to me stopping, I tell her what a good girl she is. If you have a puppy or a young dog, it's really common at some point on the walk for you to become a target. Penny likes to bite feet. Some dogs will try to make the leash a tug toy. Others will start jumping on you and biting you. But it's all the same idea. The dog is trying to connect and engage with you. And that's not a bad thing. We just prefer it not to be a trip hazard or painful. So if I weren't trying to film, now would be a good time to practice some of her tricks, like heeling between my legs, touches, and spins, that sort of thing. As it is, the neighbor dog is being really helpful by barking and providing a distraction, so it turns into a training session anyway. I would avoid reprimanding the dog for this, however annoying it is, because she is trying to engage, and engaging with me is not something that I ever want to discourage. We'll just redirect it.
Girl.
That's all I have for this video. I hope you found something in here helpful. Thanks for watching, and happy walking.
Good girl. Walk, walk. You silly. You're silly.